Welcome to the OHMs Property Podcast, your go-to guide for navigating the world of property investing. I'm your host, and in every episode, I sit down with property investors, developers, and top industry experts to share their insights, strategies, and inspiring stories. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just getting started, join us as we explore all aspects of building wealth through property. Welcome to the first ever episode of my podcast. This podcast is dedicated to speaking to real property developers to get to know them better. And it's a pleasure today to welcome you to Xuan Meng, who is from Southwest London, a property developer, multi-award winning developer. Xuan, thanks for coming along. How are you today?
I'm always good. I'm always happy to see you.
Excellent. Thanks for making the journey. Wimbledon to this studio is a bit of a trek for you, so I appreciate your time in coming here. You're the first person that I've invited on to the podcast, so hopefully that shows you how highly I admire you as a property developer.
Actually, I didn't realize it. Now I'm really honored. I hope I perform.
Yeah, I'm sure you won't. I'm sure it won't disappoint. And hopefully, I don't know if you remember, one of the first times I met you face to face was on a business property retreat where we were away together, and we both had to present our businesses. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And so it was sort of like talking about what your business is doing right now and how you potentially might scale it and what it would look like in 5 years. And that conversation that we had on that business retreat for me was very inspiring to see how well you were doing. And I think we both took quite a lot away from each other on that business retreat. So I thought, bring you along, let the viewers get to know you as well and what you're up to. And hopefully we can inspire some people to become property developers or, grow and scale their existing businesses. So I'll hand over to you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. And then I've got some questions for you as we go through.
Yeah, sure. Of course. I actually I do not come from a property background. I have 0 family members working property development. And I used to actually work in the investment fund industry. It was completely, I think, a chance, but something now I look back with really a lot of happiness, and I'm super grateful that I took the plunge into property development. So at that time, I was on my maternity leave, and I had a baby girl, and there were some family issues with actually my ex, etc. And actually before that, I thought I wanted to be a housewife because both of us at that time were management consultants in the city. And, we got married, and we were planning to have 2 kids as well. So of course, as a woman, and especially with Asian background, I thought it was only right for me to take a step back, maybe to not work for 3 years and then maybe go back into work part-time. But unfortunately, and now looking back, I also think quite fortunately, within a very short period of time, I realized that was not possible due to some family issues and issues with my ex. So I was thinking, is there anything I can do? I can look after my baby girl, but also give her the best upbringing I can. I still want to send her to private school, really look after her. And the only answer I found at that time was property development, because I think if you do it right, it's a well-paid career. But at the same time, you are your own boss, so you can have a lot of flexibility. My little girl, it was so funny. She was trapped inside me, like 3 months. She did her first property viewing.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to introduce a sponsor of the channel. Trinity Finance is a directly authorised FCA regulated mortgage brokerage. Founded in 2015 with over 30 mortgage brokers, we're really well placed to help you with all your property finance needs. Starting with first-time buyers and those moving home, we also help people remortgaging residential and buy-to-let property. Alongside that, we specialise in ground-up development, commercial lending, HMO funding, mezzanine, auction, and also your traditional buy-to-let. If that's of interest, get in contact with us via email at info@trinityfinance.co.uk, or you can give us a ring on 01322 907 000, and we look forward to hearing from you. That's excellent. So,
Yeah.
because and you say you do it properly, and you've transitioned from management consulting to property, but you've not done that lightly. I mean, am I right in saying you've grown a pretty significant property empire in that period of time? So, how have you gone from management consultant to potentially being a full-time mum to then the mindset shift of now 20 plus £1 million property in that a portfolio in that period of time? How did that shift happen for you?
Actually, unfortunately, I had to admit that one of the biggest factor limiting my growth, you would think, oh, I've grown a very, very big team. I have close to 40 people now working for me, including the tradesmen on site. And we have I think close to 30 million GDV under development at the moment. We have 9 projects at different stages. Some we are buying, some are in planning, some in construction, some we are selling. But still, I would say that my biggest issue is my limiting belief. I actually work incredibly hard, even though my background was not in property. But, all those numbers, finance, project management skills really helped. They were transferable skills. And I think I'm relatively smart as well. If I just have thought bigger, larger, I would be way more successful than now. And sometimes I feel a little bit scared because if, what happened didn't happen, there's pros and cons to everything. But if what happened didn't happen, I would have been a housewife. And the last time I was telling a friend this, and it's so funny. He said, Xuan, you can't be a housewife. Think about the homeless people.
That's super interesting, because something that I sort of find is, in terms of mindset, I find I meet lots of people just in property and also through my other kind of businesses. And I find that sometimes I'll speak with people that are highly intelligent. I mean, IQ is off the chart, especially compared to me. And there seems to be this thing where it doesn't actually translate to someone's wealth. Just because you're intelligent or you're smart doesn't actually necessarily mean that you're going to be wealthy or you're going to grow a significant amount of wealth in your life. And property, not for everyone, but for certain people, they seem to have managed to break down that barrier, if that makes sense, so that they can, and this is not in any way linked to you, because I think you're highly intelligent, much more intelligent than I am, but you've got the ability to kind of use your mindset and overcome hurdles and challenges that potentially can, change your life if you do it correctly, like you said, rather than just always thinking, I need to get more and more educated to be able to bring an income in. So for people that are, I suppose, watching this, that are thinking, how do they get started in property, or how do they, would your recommendations just be to think bigger rather than small? Because, you don't look very stressed to me, Xuan. 9 projects on the go at the same time. For most people, that would kind of give them sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Do you think this is all trying to grow a large, significant empire? Is that what's driving you to do it? Or
to be honest, initially, as I said, I didn't have a big mindset. I have some limiting beliefs. When I first started, genuinely, my lifetime goal, and now I tell you, you will laugh. My lifetime goal was 3 HMOs, because I kind of did my numbers, my expenses, and how much the income of 3 HMOs would bring. And that kind of gave me enough passive income to cover it. And I just thought, if I could have that, it would be life-changing. And I can look after my little girl. I don't need to worry about money, etc. And at that time, it feels like, oh, it will take me 20 years to achieve that. But 1 year later, I got through.
Yeah, I was about to say, well, did you do that in 6 months or
12 months? 12 months.
That's really interesting.
And I have to change my mindset. But I never did it strategically, set a big goal and try to work towards there. I always set a small goal, but at that time, I think it was big goal. I set a small goal with hindsight, and I get there and then think about next step. But I guess, for someone to be successful, I think, to be honest, intelligence is not that important. It's important, but I think it's hard work, perseverance. And I also think you have to have a good heart, genuinely try to help people create sustainable success. If you just want to make the maximum amount of money by screwing up everybody on this one deal, trust me, you will never go far.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's long-term relationship. Like us, we have trust. In the future, if we do something together, it will be win-win situation. And then I think you have to have the mindset. But for me, I think I'm okay in intelligence-wise, but I work extremely hard. And I do think I always try to do the right thing. I go out of my way to do the right thing to help others. And if I can improve my mindset, that will help me a lot. But I know that weakness already. That's why, I went to that business retreat with you, and I do a lot of things right now to help me overcome that.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely key. Some of the most successful property people I've ever spoken to, they don't ever stop educating themselves and continuing to get better, and not necessarily going on long-term educational courses because as you probably know, some of those are not really worth the cost. But certainly these sort of 1-2 day seminars with people that really know their stuff. I mean, I'm middle of March about to go on a 2-day SaaS investing course, which was quite interesting to me because it's a topic I'm trying to delve more into. So, right, back to you. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing right now. So I know you said you've got 9 projects on the go, but what's your current focus in terms of property investing?
So 40% are still HMOs. As you know, I've won many awards in the HMO industry, and that was my bread and butter. I started with it. And to be honest, for a little bit, I thought it was not sexy. And, HMOs, but now I do bigger stuff, and I know a lot of people who do bigger stuff. And I have to say, my HMOs are very sexy because they are low risk. Return on time is very high. And also even return on equity. So, for example, when I do a HMO, end to end, it takes less than 12 months, almost zero risk because I've done it so many times. I have systemized it, both the planning and the construction. And at the end of the project, I sometimes sell it for a profit. So last Friday, I've just completed a project. I bought it only last February, and it's already completely done, planning, construction, sold. I increased the size from 90 square meter to 230, a 9-bedroom all-en-suite HMO, and we made over 300K.
Wow.
Within 1 year. I know it's not a significant amount, but I could do a lot of it. And the turnover is so fast. So I would say HMO is still my bread and butter. And what I love is this market, actually, people who are actively doing stuff, know that sales risk is very, very big. Takes ages to sell at the moment. But my HMOs, if some investors want to buy as an investment product, great. And I actually have multiple investors who bought again, because the product is good. So they just keep buying from me. And if, for this particular thing, I didn't receive the good price, I can also remortgage and take all my money out. So the risk is quite low. So still at the moment, I'm doing another 9-person HMO. I'm actually doing a 12-person HMO. So I bought a large site. I'm going to develop a 2 cluster flat of 6-person HMO.
Wow, that's amazing.
So then I do ground up development now. So that's about 30-40% as well.
What do you prefer, HMO conversions or ground up development? What's your... I know you said there's less risk in HMO conversions, but what actually excites you more? Are they both equally exciting, or do you favor one over the other?
Okay. I don't care. I only care about the profit.
Oh, right, I see.
The profit is the bottom line.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think it's sexy and building a block of flats. For me, because my background is actually accountant, investment funds and stuff, what excites me is the bottom line.
It's the Excel spreadsheets that excite you, isn't it, Xuan?
How much money I make.
I see. I totally.
But I do ground up development. We are just completing on a detached house in Wimbledon, and we are building a block of 6 flats in Wimbledon as well. So we do a lot of ground up stuff. And then the last bit is we still do conversion. So currently, for example, we have a house into 4 flats conversion, and we bought a site near Wimbledon as well. We are creating 2 HMO houses in the front and another detached house in the rear, in the rear garden development. So we do a bit of everything now. And if you ask me which really makes money, I would say actually now have done bit of both, everything. I think in this market, lowest risk, not absolutely the highest profit per project, but the highest per profit considering the risk taken and consider the timeline, my effort into it, right, is still HMO.
Really? And would you say, because what's always fascinated me about what you do and how you operate is, you're operating in a very high capital value area, Southwest London, where there's quite a lot of Article 4 in that area for HMO conversions. I know you may be operating in and around the Article 4, but you seem to be buying at the right price, which is for a lot of people the hardest part. You seem to be developing out at the right cost, keeping cost under control, and then selling or refinancing and pretty much recycling most of your cash on the significant amount of your deals.
I not a single deal I left money in.
Yeah.
And quite often I end up with more money in the bank account.
And I think you'll find that a lot of people would say, how is that even possible in Southwest London? Like, given how expensive property prices are already. So how do you go about, and I appreciate your Excel skills and spreadsheet is probably top notch. I maybe need to get some education from you on Excel because mine's nowhere near as good as that. But if you analyze a deal, how are you knowing, like, where, I know it's price comparables and you've got other HMOs that you can back things up, but how are you consistently finding these deals over and over again in that area? What are you doing that I suppose other people would think this is not even possible?
Okay. I think the first contributing factor is probably my planning knowledge. So like I said, I bought the HMO in Sutton. It's a high value area, at least mid-range, right? I bought that property only for 400,000. It was in a rundown situation, had a bit of structural issue, but something quite easy to fix. Yeah. So I used that to drive price down. And also I negotiated a exchange now and a 2-3 months delayed completion. And what I did is it's just a 3-bedroom, one of those standard UK house. The third bedroom was a box. And but I was able to see that house because of how it's positioned, where the neighbors are. I can do double-story rear extension, double-story side extension. And the benefits with operating in a high-value area is if you can add significant planning value and space, there is a huge profit. So for example, if I'm building, no offense to people in Dartford, but let's say I'm building, just say low value area. Okay, I'm building somewhere low value area.
Yeah.
And the sales price is £3,000. My building cost is close to £3,000, especially if you take into planning, professional fees. So what's the profit? But if I'm building in Sutton is usually 5,000, 6,000 pound per square meter for new build stuff. Then every square meter I add, I make 2,000-3,000, right?
Yeah. But finding properties at 400,000 in Sutton is few and far between, right? If you go on to Rightmove, it's difficult to find those. So are you direct to vendor? Are you through a estate agent? Or how are you actually sourcing?
I do everything. I do direct to vendor. I do estate agent. And I think the best thing about it is planning. So I can always see an angle. So for example, this house was really run down, 90 square meter. 400,000 something with some structural issue is the right price for it. Yeah. It's on the open market. But I saw how much I can extend. And also I have an in-house planning team who is really, really fast. So how I can minimize risk, right? So where I am in Wimbledon, my next door neighbor is a lawyer, across the road is a doctor. They're quite savvy people. It's hard to do option agreement. Even if they agree to do it, they'll charge a very, very significant premium for option agreement. So how do I manage it, right? I quite often buy outright. Number one is because of my own planning knowledge, so I de-risk. But also what I do is because I have an in-house team. So for example, today, I decided to buy a property from you, Omar. And next week, the offer is agreed today, and I will aim to exchange and complete in 3 months' time. And in this 3 months' time, within a week, my team will submit a scheme to the council to get in the pre-app queue. And it's just a very high-level scheme, one week. And then after it's in the queue and it's paid, they work on all the details and rubbish in, rubbish out. So we almost prepare a pre-app as if it's a full app. So we do all that preparation. And then usually 8 weeks later, we get assigned the officer. And as soon as the officer is assigned, we send the whole package to the officer, have the pre-app. And if the pre-app meeting, the result is really negative, I can't sort out the problems, I can choose not to buy. Actually, it happened very rarely because we are quite good with it. And if the officer says, yes, no problem, or a couple of issues I can sort out, then I proceed to buy it. And what is even better is usually by the time we exchange, we've even updated all the drawings based on the officer's comments. And the planning, the SOPs, planning goes in the same day we exchange. I don't want to go in before because what if the vendor says it, they might pull it.
Change their mind,
So quite often, like the day we exchange, planning is in. And because we've done a pre-app, every feedback is incorporated. Within 2-3 months, we get the planning.
This is really an interesting one because you talk about pre-app, and I'd like to go a little bit deeper with the planning conversation with you because I highly regard you as someone who's very knowledgeable in the planning space in property. But so more than 5 years ago, I would say if you asked me about a pre-app, I would give you a negative view of it, and I would say something like, it's probably mainly just things that I'd heard. You'd wait forever for a pre-app. They won't give you a proper answer on the pre-app, whether you can, whether it's viable or not to do this HMO conversion or development or whatever it is you're doing. It's not worth it. Just go for full planning. That was kind of my opinion on pre-app. And I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, I think it was actually you that said to me, your thinking on pre-apps is completely wrong because, you know, they're hidden in terms of they're not on a planning portal. So no one can see that you've had this pre-app. Quite recently, we exchanged on a site with a 9-month delayed completion to get planning. I won't go into all the details on it now, but I had a pre-app. And in the pre-app, I definitely wasn't as prepared as you are with drawings. We just simply did a block plan. This is what we want to do on this pre-app. We had two schemes, 4 houses and 3 houses. And the planning officer that did the pre-app, I had a planning consultant with me in the meeting. They pretty much told us in that meeting what we could and can't do. Just looking at this one document, they said, we think 4 houses is too much. If you scale it back to 3, we're pretty confident we'll grant that. And I thought, this is really interesting that they're actually making these decisions quite quickly in a pre-app, you know, nothing binding or giving me the exact go-ahead. But in the pre-app advice letter after, the planning officer broke down all of the different documents which I needed to submit at planning stage. So they told me, do all of this. And in the conclusion, it pretty much said, if you submit a scheme which is similar to the one discussed in pre-app based on the following drawings, we'd be happy to recommend that for approval. And we'd even be happy if you want to slightly increase the size of the houses that are being proposed. And I nearly fell off my chair. I thought, you know, this normally might take 3 to 6 months to get someone to look at this document. I'm just paying a small amount of money up front to get them to look at it. And I'm pretty sure all pre-apps don't go that way, okay? But you actually opened my mind, and I actually use pre-apps a lot more than I used to now.
And also, I just want to say, different councils are slightly different. So near where I operate, I know Kingston, they're not good with pre-app. So I don't do pre-app with Kingston. But the other councils, I know like Merton, Sutton, they're quite responsive. You will get a chance to sit in front of them within 2 months. And also what I do slightly different from you is my pre-app is prepared in so much detail. Because if you just ask them, oh, can I build 4 houses? They'll say, quite often,
show us the elevations, show us the topography of the site. And,
subject to the bin and the cycle, subject to highway, subject to this, subject to trees. I think it's okay. But there are too many subject to. So in that meeting, we even don't give them the uncertainty. We do the bin and cycle, we do the highway, do the transport, everything. So they give us a very clear answer. We also, in our meeting, we will guide them a bit. You know, all the material consideration, we just go down the list. Are you happy with amenity? Are you happy with this? Are you happy with that?
That's amazing. So that brings me on really nicely to the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is essentially planning. I know we've been going on about that a little bit now already, but so because for someone who's trying to put deals together who doesn't have an in-house team. You've spoken about the fact that you're doing a lot of this in-house. It could be expensive and difficult to prepare all of the different consultants' reports and various drawings before you've even taken ownership of a property. So is that the main reason that you actually brought that in-house and now have your own, because you're actually offering planning services externally as well? I noticed that on your website. I'll put a link to your website in the show notes. It's Cozy House. But could you talk to me a little bit about the planning? Why have you started doing that? It's quite an interesting thing for you to do.
Yeah, so I used to work with consultants and stuff here. And I think I feel very bad to say, and it's not every consultant genuinely. Some of the consultants are brilliant, but sometimes they're just way too slow. And sometimes the quality is not good enough. So quite often it's a template. I was reading through it. The first page, the address has been updated. The last page, the address is updated. In the middle, they didn't even change the address. I'm like, I paid £5,000 for this.
Yeah.
So it's a bit sad. And so the number one reason actually I brought this team in-house is not because of money. It's because of speed and quality. Can you imagine me, 1 week, I have to submit it because I work in a local area. I don't want to mess up with state agents. Those state agents all love me. I actually do exchange and complete within 3 months. And so can you imagine, once the offer agreed, I need the paperwork to go in so I can pay for it. So it gets onto the queue within a week. Most of the time...
It's not possible with most consultants. They would have a pile of stuff on their desk. And, even with the best relationship in the world with a good architect and planning consultant, it's going to take time, isn't it? So you're just literally doing that all in-house. So do you measure the properties yourself and produce drawings in AutoCAD? And
if it's quite a straightforward rectangular site, I have so many architects working for me. They just go and measure. If it's something quite complicated, I get XP surveys to do it.
And then from there, that will then literally go through a system of these are all the things that we've done on our previous projects. With HMOs, you look at the minimum room sizes and things and then create something that's ready for pre-app, which virtually from the pre-app, you can then submit the full app with exactly the same documents.
Or very minor changes.
Yeah. That's super interesting.
And it saves you finance costs. Nowadays, finance cost is so high. Sometimes I speak to some people and I was complaining. I say, this planning I've exchanged and completed 5 months ago. I only get the decision now. And I was complaining. And other people look at me. Only 5 months.
No. So in terms of risk, we spoke about this at the beginning, didn't we? But HMOs, in your view, are the kind of lowest risk of, I suppose, because if you're operating in a non-Article 4 area, you've always got the 6-bed C4 HMO as a fallback, haven't you? So the pre-app is just another thing which is reducing the risk for you, isn't it? Because you're literally going into this deal with a percentage chance of success based on a pre-app, and if the planning officer, hopefully they're still there at the council at the full planning application stage. But if you submit and then all of a sudden their views have completely changed, that would be slightly odd that that's happened. I know it's not completely uncommon.
It's not uncommon, but again, it's all about managing risk. And actually, it's very funny. The other day, I was talking to a good friend of mine and a very successful developer. So actually, he is going to do what I'm going to do now. He does not buy unconsented site. He buys consented site. But even discharging condition once took him 9 months. I actually visited his site. It was tragic. Just a mud bath at the moment. So if he could, he said he took about 3-4 months to do the legal. If he has started that process, discharging conditions, spend a little bit of money during that process, he could have started this groundworks and all that in July. And but now even his tractor is sinking.
Because of the weather and the timing. It's difficult, isn't it? So for property developers, there's this whole thing about should I spend the money up front and do planning, discharge conditions before I've actually taken full ownership of the site? What if the seller changes their mind? And so there's that kind of whole, do I proceed or not? So it's the exchange of delayed completions for a lot of people a great option to mitigate that, isn't it? Because But
you think, okay, let's say you spend £5,000 discharging conditions. Usually there is let's say 30% chance of things falling apart. So basically there is a £1,500 cost. Probability multiplied by cost, right? But it guarantees to save him 4 months' time.
The
His
finance
finance cost is 40K plus the additional labor. You know construction quite well. What's the difference between doing piling in July and December?
Or just actually finding a contractor that wants to do it at that time of the year. It's quite a difficult one, isn't it? Excellent. Right. So I've got a few more questions for you, if you don't mind. In terms of at the moment, things that sound like they're going amazing for you. Building property empire, lots of projects all on the go, growing your team. You've also got lots more ambition, it sounds like. You don't seem like you want to slow down at all. So what's the sort of long-term plan for you? Because it started off 3 HMOs, you wanted to replace your income and give your daughter a great life. It sounds like you far exceeded that. But where are you going now? If I asked you in 5 years' time, where do you want to be, Xuan? What's your plan?
I'm scared to answer this question because it's on record, and then a few years later you look back and then you laugh at me again because now everybody was laughing at my 3 HMO objective. So I don't know. I have a few priorities, right? Number one is I have my little girl, so I want to spend as much time with her, taking her on holiday. So I do go away a lot. I don't want to work crazy hours and stuff. And I want to look after my own health. My mom and dad are getting older now, so go to visit China. So that's number one. Number two, I don't like too much risk. Maybe it's a gender thing, or maybe it's my personality and stuff. I want to make as much money as possible, but not taking on too much risk. I have a lot of risk management mitigation measures in our company. I feel responsible for my team member. Actually, quite a few of my team members are single moms as well. So I really feel responsible for them. I want to offer them and my family financial stability, because at the moment, to be honest, I'm not like a crazy, I don't like enjoy very material stuff. Everything I want, I can already afford it. So I don't want to put my daughter at risk, taking her out of a private school or stuff like that. So risk management is very important. But the number 3 is I absolutely love property. It's just like whenever you can tell, right? I'm so happy. Every day I'm happy. I'm meeting so many wonderful people like you, Oma. Every time we speak, it's like we head off like fire. And I want to do it. And I want to do it into my 70s and 80s. One day if I'm having this villa in Bahamas, I'm still getting up and do a few hours of work every morning. So basically, as long as I can spend time with my daughter, as long as I can manage risk, I will just grow the business as much as I can.
That's amazing. And always continuing with HMOs, do you think, as well? Or you like HMOs?
I like HMOs. It's like really good passive income and it's really low risk for me. So I always do HMO. And I like diversification. Actually, I have 9 projects, but my 9 projects, the average GDV is around 2 million. So I don't like to do crazy big stuff. It's also to do with risk management and stuff. But now actually I have quite a significant amount of money coming in through property sales, investors, different things. So I do need to scale up. But I don't want to do more projects because 9 is already a lot. I probably want to increase the GDV gradually from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, but gradually. Not like suddenly jump into a project I've never done and taking additional risk. So for example, one of my larger projects I'm building right now is already between 3 to 4 million GDV. So then next year, maybe instead of this is my largest, this can become my mid-range and stuff. So sense. Moving up, gradually up.
Yeah, that's excellent. And in terms of if anyone who's watching this wants to do something similar to what you're doing, have you ever thought about doing any mentoring or coaching, or do you do that at the moment, or is it mainly just the sole focus on building your own businesses?
No, because I don't have time.
I thought so, yeah.
Yeah, I really don't have time. I really enjoy property development. Actually, we do offer external services now. So planning, we started to offer it about 18 months ago, and it's going so well. We have like 20 different clients now at the moment, and the team is very busy. Actually, I have a team of 12 people, architects, planning consultant, CGI specialist, draftsman, even SAP. So we can do all those things, air quality statement, all that in-house. But with that, actually, to be honest, my number one priority for taking external work is not to make money. Making money is nice, but it's to keep my team sharp, to train them. Because each project I make, the planning gain is so significant. So we are doing that so they can do our projects even better. And we offer the VA recruitment services because people look at me. I have such they say an army of VAs. I have over 30, and they do everything for us. Usually you outsource admin, but no, even a lot of the planning, construction, QS work, all done in the Philippines. The most value adding, anything that you don't need to be here in London face to face, gets done in the Philippines. So people has been asking me to do VA services, but I keep saying no because I feel like it's a bit of a distraction from what I do best, right? And this year, I agreed to it simply because my HR manager, because I like to see people grow, my HR manager said to me that she will take 100% of the responsibility. I don't need to worry about it, and she will grow this business for me.
Wow.
That's when I said, okay, then you do it. But don't bother me, okay?
It's working out how much time you've got to put to that already as well. So if people go onto your website, I'll put a link to it. It's Cozy House. Are the planning services available on there? How do they just get in touch with your planning? Is it all on the website?
Yeah, all on the website.
Okay, that's really interesting. So as long as you're not investing in Southwest London, then Xuan will.
No, even if Southwest London is absolutely fine. Genuinely, there are so many properties to buy. I'd rather Oma buys it, my friend buys it, than some people, random
There's
people.
There's no competition in property, really, is there? I mean, you like-minded property. I think, if anything, property developers and working property professionals should get together more at networking events and talk and learn. And because two minds are always better than one. Exactly. Sometimes you're just mulling something over and you're going over and over and over, and you can't see the right decision. And all it just takes is for you to talk to one of your friends, and they say, why are you doing that? You just need to do this instead. And that one crucial thing can change your perspective. Like, I was speaking to just a really nice chap at a property networking meet. I've known him for about 10 years about something. And he basically, I've just been going over this scenario over and over again. He saved me about £30,000 in this one conversation just because I hadn't thought about the way he thought about it. I definitely owe him a beer, actually, that guy. So
more
if you're watching,
beer, Omar.
I think so. Excellent. Okay, so lots of positives. Okay, what's the worst thing about being a property developer? Is there anything negative or anything that you'd like to change, or give us your thoughts on that?
There is actually a lot of negative stuff as well. I feel like, because I started my business in 2018, right? That was just post-Brexit. So we were suffering from that. And then I tell myself, next year will be better. Next year will be better.
Yeah.
And then it's COVID. And then I'm like, okay. Yeah. And then I'm like, I cannot be any unluckier than this, right? Yeah. And the next year will be better. And then they hike up the interest rate. Yeah. So I just feel like it's hard work. It's genuine. And sometimes it's very demoralizing. What is that?
Demoralizing.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for teaching me English. Demoralizing. Chinese is my name.
No, that's it. So I totally agree, actually. I think it's been just one thing after the next, isn't it? You had the COVID thing where we were all trying to buy pallets of multi-finish from eBay, and they were importing brands from other countries, and we're all fighting over it. Yeah. And then, interest rates, renters reform, it's just constant, isn't it? The things that, I mean, surprisingly, the property industry, landlords and developers are quite resilient. And, although masses have exited, there are some that have had to adapt. Yeah. And, if you think back prior to 2018, maybe when if you think back to sort of like 2007, 2008, a lot of the people that I dealt with as clients back then, HMO wasn't really a thing. I mean, there's some people that had bed sits and things, and they might have done HMO, but not like how they're done now, not this luxury product. It was just really like 85% loan to value, buy to let mortgage, and then day one refinance and all these things that people did to build huge buy to let portfolios. that, you know, it's completely gone now, isn't it? The ability to actually even grow a buy-set portfolio, especially anywhere in kind of Greater London.
Yeah.
You've either had to buy something astronomically cheap or add huge significant value to be able to refinance and get your money back out. So for so many people, it's adapt and, you know, build synergy businesses around property, like what you're doing, like planning, developing, having multiple things and keeping your costs down. So yeah, that leads me on to one more thing just to talk about, if you don't mind, is the construction side. So, because I've seen you on Instagram, I think, with a hard hat on a few sites. And I've seen that you're part of the Developers Club now as well, which I think is like a network of other developers, all like-minded, trying to hold each other accountable. I think, would you say that's a sort of the thing that it does? So what is do you have any goals for, like how you are managing the risk of planning and you're managing the risk of which projects you're going into using pre-apps and things? In terms of construction, unfortunately, it's an unregulated industry, right? We don't have this ombudsman that we can go to complain when our builder doesn't perform or main contractor doesn't perform. So what do you do in terms of construction? How are you mitigating risks around that?
Oh, to be honest, this is a hard one. You know, the entire property development cycle, I can quite often tell you, quite good at sourcing. I'm quite good at planning, and I'm quite good at finance, remortgaging, funding, everything. Construction is my weakest link. I've never lifted a spammer in my life, but I try my best. And maybe this is important because not every property developer comes from construction background. So I know when to use other people. So I hire a full-time interior designer, full-time construction architect, and also in the Philippines, right? You might not believe it. I have 2 full-time QSs.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, one does all the material sourcing stuff, scheduling with Selco, TP, calls for the Grab lorry. So everything that can be done on computer gets done in the computer, right? So they do all the material sourcing. You know, when was the last time you need to order something and the TP, the first price they give to you is very high, but you're like, oh, I don't have time for this. I don't have to just buy it. It's a bit, it costs me £500 more, but I just genuinely does not have time to deal with it. But I have someone full-time in the office getting quotes and sorting things out. And now I have built a really good relationship with the building merchants now. I get a really good discount, and quite often they fix a price for me during the build. And also I have, like, for example, I have 5 projects currently on development finance. I have a second QS, the full-time job is development finance, all the monitoring reports and stuff. So I guess my cost is low because of the combination of London team and the Filipino team. I have actually a building services engineer who does the SAP, EPC. He is based in the Philippines. I don't hire Thames Water utility consultants and stuff anymore. He will do it 10 times better than the utility consultant. He can sit on the call for 10 hours with Thames Water, just like answer my call. So all those really helps, but I'm no construction specialist.
So in summary, you're keeping the costs down by using others to QSs and VAs to constantly track, is that quote from Travis Perkins as cheap as the Selco one? I've got a cheaper one from Selco. Let me go back to Travis and get it back down. And a kind of long-winded process that we have to go through to monitor costs. But how about selecting a contractor, a main contractor, or do you have any in-house people that are actually working for you permanently? How does that work?
So for our small project, like our HMO, we've done again and again because we have so many and it's all in a local area. So we have hired some tradesmen basically almost working full-time for us or mostly working for us. But for our bigger project, we still work with main contractors. And I have actually quite a few very, very good main contractors who we have a long-term relationship. I always pay them on time, not a single day late.
Yeah, and obviously you're checking them, you're referencing them, you're doing JCT contracts, and that's amazing. Xuan, the conversation has been fantastic. I really think the viewers will get great inspiration from how successful you've been, and especially as a woman, because we do find the industry is predominantly dominated by men. Actually, on my YouTube channel, one of the stats is that the majority of the people that watch these videos are actually men. And it's great to see someone as successful as yourself doing things in the industry, which I hope to be as successful as yourself in terms of what you're doing. So well done for leading the way. I saw something about you on LinkedIn in terms of something you're doing with the government as well. Could you just talk a little bit about that in terms of leading the way for women, I think it is?
Yeah, of course. So quite often when I sit in a room, I'm the only woman. I feel a bit lonely. So sisters, please come and join me. But I'm part of I'm a house builder initiative. Actually, we were on multiple newspapers and stuff. It's a cross-party initiative to encourage more women into construction. Because of that, I was joining a lot of campaigns and I have mentees as well. And I genuinely feel, right, my personal experience sometimes may not true. I personally feel because I'm a woman, actually, I see it as an advantage instead of a disadvantage. And I think a lot of my colleagues, which happen to be men, like even in the developers club, etc., and because I'm a woman and they know probably it's a bit more difficult for me, they go out of their way to help me.
That's really
So
interesting,
I actually think all the men in the industry are ready. They would like more ladies joining.
For sure, yeah.
And probably sometimes the ladies have a bit of a mind block. The mentality thing I keep talking about. So I just think, don't be afraid. Get in there. And I actually think sometimes women can be better than men at certain areas. For example, risk management, for example, finances.
Yeah. And probably organizational admin stuff as well can be a bit all over the place.
Yeah. Last year, I was actually really, really proud. So, at the developers club, at the board level, I'm the only woman. And every single board member, they voted me to be the developer of the year.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so interesting. That's amazing. Excellent. Xuan, look, I'm just going to round this up by asking you two more things, I think. So what would be for anyone watching who's newer to getting started, we were all there once, right? We're just perhaps looking to get our first investment or transition away from full working 9 to 5 in other industries. What would be your biggest tip for someone who's new in property?
I think first of all is educating yourself. But when I say educating, is not to sign up some super expensive courses like £20,000 for 12 months. When I say educating yourself is most of the resources out there are free. For example, this podcast, etc. And I actually, for the first 2 years of my property development career, I never signed up to any paid courses. I learned it by myself. I read the local plan. I go down to planning portal. I speak to wonderful people like Oma. So I find that very, very important. So it's educating, invest in your learning and development, have a growth mindset. And secondly, I think is risk management, because currently the market is tough. In the past, about 10 years ago, having a 20% profit on GDV, it's standard. Absolutely, everybody has it. But now, having that, it's a lot of work. So I really advise that, when you go into something, risk management, try to have a parachute. What is plan A? What is plan B?
That's really good advice. And then final thing from you. So I thought it would be a good way to round up the end of each podcast by getting someone to recommend something else to someone who's watching. So for example, a book that you've read that may have inspired you, a podcast that you've listened to that you thought was really useful, or a website that you use regularly that could help someone. So could you just give us something that's a recommendation for the people that are watching?
I actually really recommend, there is a training course called the Millback Academy. So I did that last year. It's mostly focused on planning, but it touches on construction and different things. But I learned a lot of interesting things from there.
Yeah, sure. I've seen Paul quite a lot. Seems to have a lot of experience in land and planning. So those people that are really trying to scale up and buy the right sites. Paul, if you're watching, I'll put a link in the show notes as well, because I think you're brilliant. But again, that's a paid for thing, and people need to be kind of making sure they're taking property seriously if they're spending that sort of money. I would imagine it's not cheap, but it's probably very good. He's also got a great podcast which I listened to.
Podcast is free. Start with the podcast.
Start with the podcast, and then if you like Paul, that could be a great investment if you want to know more about planning and learning how to put together property deals and things. So amazing. Thank you so much, Xuan. You've been amazing. Hopefully I'll invite you back on maybe in a year's time. We'll catch up with you.
Thank you, Oma.